and faithful assistant Philo.
Hello, my name is Philo.
For our show today. And our first activity here in the workshop is to replace the save game battery in an old SNES cartridge, which is appropriate for the theme of the show. And for Tyler, our save battery cartridge that we're going to be replacing is for Earthbound. Earthbound, number 13 on the IGN Top 100 Super Nintendo games, is an episode of Tadpog you may have heard. Correspondent Laura was playing Earthbound when we were in Kentucky for the recording of another episode, one on board games that you may have heard. And she got really excited about this game, started playing it, and when we got back to Jacksonville, she got the dreaded copyright message. That message is what happens when the save games get corrupted because the battery is dying. So, the first thing you have to do when you get ready to replace the save game battery in an SNES cartridge is be able to open it up, which is not as easy as it sounds. Opening up an SNES cartridge requires a special tool because SNES cartridges are equipped with safety screws and security screws. So those security screws are meant so that the rabble cannot get into these cartridges. Well, with the right amount of money and a large amount of patience, you yourself can order one of these safety screwdrivers on the slow boat from China. So long ago, ordered this screwdriver, it arrived, and this is the special tool you need to be able to get into one of these puppies. So it's 2 safety screws, comes apart easily. Once you get those magical safety screws out, all you have to do, tilt the cartridge bottom up and pull the top away, and you have the internals of an SNES cartridge. They're not very impressive on the top side because really all you have is the label for the game and some plastic on the other side. And once you get inside, the cartridge itself can be a little anticlimactic because inside on the other side is the bottom plastic casing with the Nintendo label and some interesting marks of wear. This is a very well-loved cartridge. And then inside there's only a single circuit board. There's the area that connects to your SNES. This is what happens when you plug the cartridge in. There are contacts that connect to the cartridge, or to the gaming system itself, and then there are a few integrated circuits. Now, where the battery goes is here on the circuit board. The battery has already been removed for this one in an earlier attempt to repair this cartridge. I found out, looking on the internet, that there are 2 ways to put a battery in a Super Nintendo cartridge. One requires levels in Barbarian, and I don't have any of those. I found out because I was unsuccessful. That is the method where you heat an X-Acto knife or a blade of some sort to the point where you can barely hold it, and then you try to cut the connector with a red-hot blade off of the top of the battery, and then try to reapply that red-hot connector to a new battery. So, I made an earlier attempt at that, and was very unsuccessful. That's the Barbarian way of replacing one of these save game batteries. The other way of replacing one of these save game batteries requires a level or 2 in Artificer. Fortunately, I have those, and it took me a mere 10 seconds to desolder the battery connector off of these batteries. And so it simply comes out of the holes. Once you get the solder hot enough to pull the battery, 10-second operation, but then you have a new problem. How in the world do you connect the old connector to a new battery? Fortunately, that's not a problem. There have been enough of us who love these Super Nintendo games enough to build new batteries with new connectors. It also helps that this is a fairly standard way to connect a coin-sized battery to integrated circuit boards, which is fancy words for saying this is how you put the round things on the green things. And since it's a standard connector, you can buy batteries. In fact, you can buy entire strips of batteries with connectors pre-applied. So Tadpog Nation, if you're out there and you have a cartridge with a dead battery, it turns out you can only buy these in minimum sets of 10 I got some batteries. I'm only going to use this one for this example. So if you have a cartridge out there that could use a battery, for the price of shipping, which is really easy because they're about that small, I can send you one of these batteries. And I'm not worried about getting my money back because they're fairly cheap. If you want one, let me know. Hit up Tadpog, facebook.com/Tadpog. There are a lot of cool people doing a lot of cool stuff there. Or you can hit up tadpog.com and let Tyler and Dave know you need a battery. I got some to spare. So, once you have your battery with the connector pre-applied, this again will take mere seconds to replace the battery in a Super Nintendo cartridge. Once you have the cartridge battery removed, you have to remember to put them on correctly. And the best way to do that is to know how it was on there before you took it off. That is top connector towards the gold leads, towards the section where it plugs into your console, and the bottom connector, which is the negative side of the battery, goes on the top hole in the integrated circuit board. On the old battery, there was a date, and I have to compliment them because the date is the date range for which the battery is good. This one in particular was good from the years 1994, copyright 1993 Nintendo. The battery was good from 1994 to 2009. As of this filming, it's 2014, so this battery actually lasted 5 years longer than the manufacturer of the battery said that it would last. So, almost to 2015. So this one, she was a good one. We have a brand new CR2032 battery. While I've been talking, battery is already connected to the circuit board. Now all we have to do is heat it up. It's important when you're doing any sort of technical wizardry like this to make sure that you have a familiar with you. My familiar that's helping me out today, in addition to correspondent Laura, is one that's representative of the fact that it took me way too long to put this video together. So, make sure you have your familiar, make sure you have the appropriate tools. We have a soldering iron, we have solder, we have the special removal tool for our Super Nintendo cartridges, for the security screws on the cartridge. And that's all it takes to replace the save game battery on a Super NES cartridge. So Tadpog Nation, that's all it takes to replace the battery on a Super Nintendo cartridge. 2 undone solder joints to pull the old battery out. Cutting these off is a really terrible idea. All it gives you is a sooty battery and a bent up connector. Buy the extra batteries with the connectors already installed. You need to undo 2 solder joints and pull the battery. Put a nice new fresh battery onto that cartridge and 2 new solder points, and you'll be rolling again. Earthbound, hopefully valid, and saving those games for another 10 years. Thanks for watching, and if there is another episode of Father Wiley's Workshop, we may be doing something like...
Today,